Oh, this is Mike Smith, and I wanted to talk to you today about some events that occurred in my own family in the post Civil War era from family members that owned a plantation and how that affected them. And they're kind of an example of what happened across the state of South Carolina and other southern states in the post Civil War era. We often think about the fact that the Civil War was worsened by the events of General Sheridan and others who literally destroyed most of the infrastructure after the war had formally ended in a way that made impossible the rebuilding of structures that would make the events in the South a lot more tenable and more easy to have been rebuilt and restarted. As a result of that, it cost the South decades, maybe even a century, before they got back on their feet and began to move forward. That is reinforced with our weekly reading by Barry Wingast and his discussion on the economic role of political institutions and how important they were to being able to secure a political foundation to rebuild structures that were needed in the process of reconstruction that never happened. Roger L. Ransom and Richard Such estimate that agricultural production in the five largest cotton producing southern states fell by 71.3% between 1859 and 1866. And it was not until 1882 that the states again reached parity with that 1859 production level. So you can see how devastating it was to the cotton economy and to these men who held families that held different plantations. I want to briefly introduce you to my family, to my great grandfather, who was among the plantation holders in South Carolina that experienced the events that we are talking about. And in this film, or in this slide here, you will see our plantation, or his plantation home in the postbellum experience. This is the home belonging to the Collins family, which was my mother's family, located in the East Totoy Valley of Northwest South Carolina. The home was built around 1800, and surprisingly, it is still standing. His father, Thomas, migrated to upstate South Carolina from Virginia sometime in the late 1790s, and eventually they owned this plantation of several hundred acres in the East Totoy Valley that was called Rita Cove. In January 1858, he would purchase another plantation on Little Crow Creek in Pickens County. That land got divided between his four sons just prior to them leaving for the Civil War. In 1860, the Civil War found Waddy Collins and his family owning 16 slaves that worked both of these plantations, which were about a day's ride apart by horseback. Watson Collins sent four sons and a son-in-law and five horses to the Civil War effort. His son Alex was captured at the Battle of Hall's Shop in Virginia, and he died in Elmira Prison in New York of his injuries. At the end of the war, it left the Collins family financially devastated, and he changed the plantation over to sharecropping and tenant farming. And while the elderly Collins was too old to actually engage much in physical labor, his children, his sons that returned from the war, joined their former slaves in the field. Money was really scarce, and there were no banks that survived the war. So getting equipment and finding seed to keep the farm going was a struggle. While their lives were not, overly extravagant before the war, their lives were a struggle in the post-war Reconstruction era. Short staple cotton that had been the major crop when cotton was king in the South was no longer in demand because of the competition of long staple cotton in California. So the crop was not as sellable as it once had been. By Waddy Collins' death in 1887, when his son took over what was once a thriving enterprise, was passed to his children as a subsistence farm, barely keeping its people fed. And of course, subsistence farming became the lot of my family from that point well up into the 1940s and 50s with my own grandparents. Across South Carolina, the Collins family was much like other poor whites who found themselves very near or in poverty. A couple of the pictures I'd like to show you. My great-great-grandfather, Jacob Watson Collins, who was the son who returned from the war, who took over much of the farm production, is seen here in a 1910 Confederate Veterans Reunion. He is the gentleman on the left-hand side front row, 3 over with the hat in his hand. And he often attended these reunions as remembrance of the war. This is also a picture from 1906 of the Watson family reunion. And then these are my sources that I've used. 2 of them come from official papers of Thomas Collins and Watty Collins, that were compiled and in the family archives. And then this book by Tobridge is really an interesting read that happened. It was written in 1866 about a tour of battlefields and ruined cities, and a journey through desolated states, and talks with people. So it has a great deal of personal references. And then several of our secondary sources here that were very impactful, talking about the economy in South Carolina and the toll it took upon not only freed slaves who had to find work, but also those who owned the plantations, who needed labor and many times had to join the labor force themselves to make it work. I hope that you will find something here of interest, and it's been my pleasure sharing some of my family history with you. Thank you.